Hey, everyone. Thank you for coming in. Um, so, yeah, this last few days has been really rough. Um, some of you that I talked to outside of YouTube know about what happened. Um, I'm exhausted. Hey, Fluffy. Thanks for coming in. I haven't slept really that much at all since Thursday. Um, been just doing everything that I can to try to help out my family. So, hey, Daisy Joe. So, I'm going to get right into it because, for one, I am really tired. For two, my phone has been just ringing like crazy because I have called so many organizations. I've called every official I can think of. I mean, if there was a place to find a call, I have called. So I've got lots of callbacks. And my phone has just been crazy. So I'm going to make this short, but I just wanted everyone to know what's going on. That way, if there's someone out there who might have some resources that can help as well, that would be great. Hit me up. Hi, Rosemary J. Rosemary J. So let me explain. I'll give a little bit of background first before I tell you guys what just recently happened. So my cousin, which is my mom's sister's son, he served several years in our military. He is actually still on active duty, but about, I'd say, 7 years ago, he felt like he was called to become a missionary. So he put in to be a missionary through his church, and they waited to find an area that was requesting for a missionary to come and build a church, and spread the gospel. That's what he wanted to do, and they were waiting for the right place for him to be sent. It wasn't very long after that the church was they got a letter first, and then they got a call from a village in, let me make sure that I get this part right. It's Malawi, but it's Zamba, Malawi, Africa. Malawi. Anyways, everything was pretty much paid for them. For him and the entire family, they had a place for them to stay, and they were ready to start building a church, and my cousin be the preacher / evangelist for the church there. And so they were excited. They were told that it was going to be one of the most scariest, places that you can go to do this kind of work. They had to get all kinds of shots, and they had to go through different training courses. The entire family did. Lots of preparation before they went over. But they've been there for a little over 6 years, and the villagers have actually come to love and adore them. They have a nice place that they stay in, and the church that was built for them is very nice. And up until just here recently, the biggest battle that they faced while being over there was malaria. My cousin and one of his daughters, so my second cousin, caught it despite being vaccinated and stuff. It was really hard on my cousin, but they almost lost their daughter. By the grace of God, they didn't. But that was like the most scariest thing that had happened since they had been there until a few days ago. So make sure that I start this off right. So 8:30 p.m. at night, Thursday night, their time, my little second cousin, who's 17 years old, was in her kitchen over in Africa. And I'm going to put up really quick before I go into this, their area here. Okay. And in a few minutes, I'll show you the actual property when I get to that part. Okay, so she was in her kitchen with her younger sister. They're like 2 years apart. And they were baking cookies and doing dishes and singing songs when Amelia, my 17-year-old cousin, thought that she heard a crying animal outside of the home. I didn't know this until today, but this wasn't the first time she had heard this animal in distress. Yes, trigger warning. Thank you, Gypsy. I found out today that actually 1 week to the day that she was taken, her and a couple of her sisters heard this cry of an animal. But at that time, both mom and dad were home. So my cousin and his wife were home. And they were all busy doing things. And they ran over to the ladders, which, let me explain this so it makes sense to you. Well, I guess now I have to throw that picture up so you understand what I'm saying. I'm sorry, guys. My mind is all over the place. I've been so emotional about this, and it's still so fresh, and we're finding out more information, it seems like every hour. So I'm kind of still in that shocked, triggered state, trying to explain this to you guys. All right, so this is the property. And you see how it has this line all around the property here. That is actually a 10-foot wall that was built for safety around their home there. If you look over to this left-hand side, you see this white building. That white building there is actually a paid security guard that they have that lives there to keep watch over the family. And then they have this 10-foot stone, fencing around too, a wall. It's a wall. So the backyard, you see that little pool there, and there's a little canopy and stuff, and there's a trampoline back there. And then you see there's some bushes back behind there. Then they have a garden area, and then they come to the wall. Okay, so the window that my little cousins was at washing dishes, doing cookies, is right behind that pool. It's hard to see in the picture, but it's right behind that pool. And that's where they were standing whenever she heard the noises of what sounded like an animal crying, right? This time, the first time, all the kids wanted to go hear where the animal was coming from when it happened the week before last. But my cousin and his wife said, no, 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 no. You know, you don't go over that wall. You don't go around the wall for no animal, for anything for that matter. But this time, my cousin was out working, you know, doing his job. And his wife was getting the littlest ones ready to go out into the pool. And she wasn't really paying attention to Amelia or her sister Marissa, the oldest two daughters. Well, Amelia said to Marissa, oh my goodness, I hear that animal crying again. He's been out there for over a week. He has to be suffering. You know, she thought this animal is in such distress and has been out there for a week now just crying. So she told her sister Marissa, I'm going to go check it out. Well, Marissa tells her, no, you don't do that. You know, you're not allowed to. And she's like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just an animal. So she goes out the back door, past the pool that you see there, past all that, and she goes over to the wall. What you can't see in the pictures is that this wall has 4 ladders around it. All right. And that's for emergency purposes. She went to the ladder that would be, if you're looking at the picture here, okay, and you see the pool and you go past the pool and they have that little gate area around the pool. She went out that little gate area, past those little shrubs that you see, and to the back end of the wall where you see that there is a little road that runs there. All right, she went back that way to the ladder because in that little wooded area that you see there, that's where she thought she heard the animals cry coming from. And she climbed that ladder, and her sister Marissa, watching her through the window, saw her go to the top of the ladder and then her be gone. So she thought, oh my goodness, Amelia just jumped the fence, jumped the wall. She's going to be in so much trouble. She knows better than that. But she waited. She gave it a little bit of time to see if Amelia was going to, you know, come back. And then she realized that how is she going to come back? You know, how is she going to get back over the wall from there? And she started to freak out a little bit. And she ran out and started calling for her. That's when their mom started to, you know, notice something was going on. And she asked them, what's wrong? And Marissa said, Amelia heard that animal crying again, and she didn't listen to me, but she went over the wall. She climbed up the ladder and she went over the wall. So their mom freaks out and she starts running towards that area, and she's calling for her and she's screaming for her. And Amelia's not answering back. So she then climbs the ladder herself to look, and she sees nothing besides what looks like fresh tracks from a vehicle. Excuse me. So panic sets in. She runs back to the house. She calls my cousin, and she says Amelia's missing. This is Amelia and Marissa. Amelia's the one circled in the yellow here. So like I said, this happened 8:30 at night. It is dark. They do have lights outside of the house that surround their pool area and their trampoline area. And they go out and thank you, Daisy Joe. And they go out and they, play, and they feel safe. They got a 10-foot wall around them. But once you get past that area that's lit, it is dark. And even with the flashlight that my cousin's wife took and ran when she looked over that fencing area, it was still really hard for her to see. I don't think that even if Amelia would have been there, she would have been able to really see her. But she calls my cousin. He rushes home. He goes and does his little investigation and looking around and stuff. And then they call their local authorities there. Well, pretty much what they're told is it's night. We don't really work at night. It's too dangerous. There's nothing we can do until the morning. Not like America. Not at all. So they're like, are you kidding me? It's my 17-year-old daughter. She was here one minute, gone the next. So they're, of course, flipping out. And they're trying to gather up their own type of team to search. My cousin's going from house to house, knocking on doors and telling them what's going on. And Hannah's going to the friends that she's met in the village and got close with and telling them and asking them to come and help. And, people are starting to pour out of their homes with flashlights and stuff and spotlights and do their best to look for her. But, you guys got to understand that this is in the middle of Africa. There's not really street lights. It's really dark. And then you don't have cops, police willing to help. They're just like, nope, we don't work after dark. Sorry, we'll see you in the morning. So the villagers and them did everything that they could looking for her, questioning everyone. What did you see? What did you hear? And they kept coming up empty. No one saw anything. No one heard anything. And just all through the night, they are posting on social media, please, anything, help us, pray, pray, pray. Mainly they were just asking for prayer requests because all their families over here. And they didn't, what are people going to do? And then all of us as family, we felt helpless. All of us were fired up and just wanted to do something, anything to help. And we're thousands of miles away. It was awful. So then we're, all as a family trying our best to get a hold of someone who will help, who will get military that's close by to go out there and help. I'm calling all the orgs that I'm affiliated with. I'm calling celebrities that I work for that might know someone. And after a few hours of calling and pleading and telling the story over and over again, I finally get a connection to someone from the U.S. Embassy. Hi, Curious. So, oh, Jimbo, I didn't see you come in. Hello. So I finally get a hold to a man from U.S. Embassy. tell them everything. I give them their location, their phone number. He says, let him see what he can do with everything, I gave him all my cousin's information. And he gets back with me about an hour later and tells me that they have secured ports. So the ports were being watched, and that any vehicle that went through there would be searched, and anything that could hold a human would be searched. So that gave some relief to us. Now, they kept trying to get a hold of my cousins, and they weren't answering their phones. And I think it's because they were busy searching, for one. For two, their service there isn't the best. So I was, kind of having to be the one that was like leading them through everything and telling them what I know and helping them. But at least we knew that if they were going to try to take her and ship her somewhere, they should get busted, and we had that hope at least. So we were up all night long, just waiting to hear anything. The next morning, I get just a quick message that she's been found, that she was, trigger warning, drugged and molested, but she's been found, and that the men that did this are in custody. So you can imagine how relieved I was at that point, and the whole family. We wanted details, and I started calling back places and organizations and friends and telling everyone that she's found. I was told that they took her to a local hospital to be checked out, but she was so hysterical that she wouldn't let them examine, and they wouldn't push it. So I was really worried about that. And I didn't want to, keep calling them and keep bothering them. I wanted them to spend time with her and get her, in a calm state, feeling safe again, let her rest, and wait to find out what happened when she was ready, So earlier today, I got more of what happened, more information, and I'm going to tell you guys really quick, but another trigger warning. Oh yes, Daisy Joe, just wait until I tell you this. This is her words, okay? She's not wanting to talk to anybody, not even her own parents, not her siblings. She doesn't want to speak. What she did do after everyone went to bed last night was write down a timeline in the best way that to her ability of events that happened and what went down. And this is why I have this. So she says about 8:30 that night, she heard the sound of a distressed animal again, because remember, she had heard it this a week before too. So she says that she wanted to go help the animal and help it out. So she said she went over to the ladder. As soon as she reached the top of the ladder, a bag was thrown over her head. She said that it was already dark, so she didn't see who did it to her, or how many people that there were, or what was going on. and she was terrified. I'm going to have to pause a few times, guys. I'm sorry. She said then she was put in what she thinks is a work truck. That's how she described it. A work truck. The sack was tied around her head. She said they must have driven at a fast pace for about 2 hours. She said the reason why she thought it was around 2 hours is because she kept herself sane and calm as she could by just counting. She said after what she thought was about a 2-hour drive, they came to an abrupt stop. She said she heard men talking, and they came and they grabbed her up out the back of the vehicle, and they took her inside of a building. Of course, she can't see anything. For one, it's pitch dark. For two, she's got this bag tied over her head. They take her inside of a room inside this building, and they set her down on like a cot type thing, and they take the bag off of her head. It's like one of those potato sack type bags, those breathable type bags. They take that off of her head and walk out the room. Well, she says she can't see a thing, couldn't tell you what the inside of the room looked like, nothing. She was too terrified to really even move. She just sat there thinking in her head, what are they going to do to me? What are they going to do to me? As you can imagine. She knew about trafficking. She knew about things like this. Her parents had taught her. They had taken those classes, those courses. So she was aware of her situation. So she was taught, to listen, follow direction until you find a chance to be free, or, until you can scream in a safe way or something. So she said she was sitting there with everything going through her head, what to do, and trying to also keep herself calm. So she started to just listen, and she said she heard what she thinks are between 5 to 6 different men speaking in the room outside of the room they were holding her. She said she did not recognize the dialect, but they did say the word India a handful of times. So that made her believe that they might be men from India. They definitely weren't American. They definitely weren't African. So she was thinking that they might be men from India. So she said they left her alone for probably maybe 10 minutes. Trigger warning again. They come back into the room and start stripping her of her clothes. She's wearing a t-shirt and a pair of jogging pants with pockets on the side, those deep pockets on the side. All right, they strip her of her clothes and they molest her. We do not know how far the molestation went because she refused to be examined, and my cousins did not want to push her after that type of trauma. And she won't say. Now, come tomorrow, they're saying that they're going to take her for full examination, whether she likes it or not at that point, because she's had a few days to calm down and they've tried to talk with her. She did write this all down for them. But, she needs to be checked out for diseases, for possible pregnancy, for various reasons. She needs to be checked out. But at this point in time, we don't know how far they went with her. All that she said was, they molested me. Then she says, after that was done, they picked up her clothing and they threw it back at her and left the room. So she got dressed back in her clothing. And she said that they were gone for maybe another 5 minutes at that time when they came back in. And this time they picked her up and put her in a full sack, just one big like potato type bag. They put her entire body into the sack and tied the top up with a rope. And she said then they carried her back out to the vehicle and they put her in the back of the vehicle. Now, the way that she describes this, it sounds to me like an off-road Jeep or something, because it's open. So that's what I think the vehicle is that she's describing. But they put her into that vehicle in that back. And she says then she heard as they put something over her and they put stuff all around her. And she said it was harder to move at that point because they kind of like put a bunch of stuff around her. She said that some of the men stayed behind at the place they had took her to. And 2 of the men got into the vehicle and drove off with her. So she said she immediately started doing her counting, and she estimates that they probably drove about 20 minutes at this point. And she said that she started hoping that they did whatever that it was that they wanted to do with her, and now they were taking her back home. That's what she was hoping for. And she said that the thought of that made her feel hopeful, made her start to cry, and think maybe the worst of this is over, and they didn't like me and they're going to bring me home. So she said she started to cry and she started to pray. And according to her notes, she pretty much just prayed over again, Jesus, help me. Jesus, help me. Have mercy on me. Save me, Jesus. I can't read the rest of that, guys. It's too hard. It's too soon. But she prayed and she prayed until she said she felt like a peace came over her. And when that peace came over her, she said she started to think a little clearly, and it dawned on her that she remembered, Daddy always makes me carry a pocket knife. So then she thought, yeah, but I've been picked up, tossed around, rode in this vehicle, my clothes thrown off of me. I'm wearing these baggy jogging pants. The chances that my little pocket knife are still in there are slim. But then she said, she thought to herself, I have to try. I have to at least try and see. So she wormed herself around as slowly and quietly as she could And at that point, she's so scared that they're going to stop the vehicle and do something to her because she's moving around and stuff. But she said at that point she started to realize that a lot, they're on a dirt road, and this vehicle's going over a lot of nooks and crannies and bumps and things like that. So if she just love you too. So if she just waits, eventually they're going to go over another one of those bumps, and during that time is where she'll position herself to be able to get her hand down into her pants and check for that knife. So that's what she did. First big bump that came, she positioned herself in a way where she could now reach down into her pockets. And there was that knife. It was there. So at that time, she decided she was going to wait for the next big bump like that, and she was going to rip that bag open, and she was going to try to escape. And hopefully they wouldn't realize it. So they go over a little bump, and that's when she rips into the bag, and she can see the sky now. She can get fresh air now. And another little bump happens, and she says that she lifts her head up and she looks, and she sees that she has logs, like firewood logs. That's what they surrounded her with. And there's like a table type thing over her head. Between where the logs and the top of the table meet, she had about a half of a foot to kind of look out. And she looked out and she saw the two men, one man driving, one man in the passenger seat. They were having conversation, and they had music on, and they were not looking back at her, not paying any attention to her whatsoever. I'm guessing that they thought, because she hasn't been insane, she hasn't been crazy, she hasn't been screaming from the time they took her practically, they thought that the drugs were doing really well on her, so they didn't really have anything to worry about. But she says that she was completely clear of mind at this point. So she waited for that next big bump, and she said that a doozy is what she said. A doozy one came about, and at that time, that's when she pushed the logs back with her feet, and she climbed out of the bag and rolled off of the back of the vehicle onto the floor, onto the ground. Now, when she hit, it knocked the breath out of her, and it scratched her up really bad. I have photos of that. I'm not showing that. But she said that even if she could have got up and moved and ran right away, she wouldn't, because what she had learned taught her that it would be best if she stayed there in a ball like that, because they wouldn't see her if she got up and took off running, So she stayed there in a ball like that, trying to catch her breath again and let the pain kind of die down a little bit until the vehicle was out of her sight. When she couldn't see the vehicle anymore, they never looked back. They never heard her. They never realized she did this. When the vehicle was out of her sight, that's when she got herself up and she ran. That baby girl ran and ran and ran for hours throughout the night. About an hour before daylight, she finally came into a village. It wasn't her village. It wasn't a village she had ever been to before. But she finally made it and came into a village. And when she seen people up and about, she started screaming, "Help, help." Okay? And she said, I've been taken. And she was yelling, I want my dad. I want my mom. Somebody help. And there were people kind of staring at her like they didn't know what to do. But luckily there was 2 people up and around at that time that could speak English that came over to her and, ask her what had happened. Who was she? Where is she from? All the questions you would ask. And they gave her water, and they gave her some, like those fruit bars. Of course, she didn't care anything about eating at that time. And they then called police. Well, at first they weren't getting any answer. So they just stayed with her. And she said they comforted her well and they were nice to her. And then after the sun finally came up, the people were able to get a hold of the police, and someone actually answered the phone. And they told the police, we have this girl here, Amelia, who says that she was taken. Her family is missionaries. They're from so-and-so village. And the police were like, oh, yeah, oh, awesome, okay, just keep her right there. We're on our way. So about another hour after that, police finally get her and take her, to that nearest hospital there. And my cousin had to go and meet her there. Or he went and met her there. He didn't have to. He went and met her there. And he said that when she came out of that car and she saw him, that she fell down to her knees, and all the braveness, all the quiet, all the time that she just kept her mouth shut and just tried to be good, she just lost it at that time. He said she went completely hysterical. And I can imagine how relieved she must have been. It was finally over, and she had held in the cries, the screams, everything that was raging inside of her during this whole thing, this whole time. And so it just all came out when she finally saw my cousin, her dad. Right, Magnum. So, like I said, she refused to be examined when she found out what they had to do to examine her. And her parents agreed too soon. Let's give her a little bit of time. We don't want to traumatize her any further. She just kept saying, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. I just want to go home. So, of course, they want to do everything that she wants at that time. And they took her home. Later on, authorities call and tell them they've got the guys. They caught them. They got them. So they're like, thank the Lord. My cousin said, kill them. That's what he said. He said, kill them. But this morning, hey, Judo Tap Out. Oh, I'm almost done, Jimbo. I'm not going to stay on very long. I'm exhausted. I'm almost done. So this morning, they are wanting to call and check up. What's been done with the guys? What's going on? What's happening here? We haven't heard anything. And they're told the guys got away. They don't know how, they don't know what happened, but somehow or another, they just got away. Well, I don't believe it. My cousins don't believe it. No one in my family believes it. Other villagers don't believe it. We don't think they ever had them in the first place. We think they lied about having them in custody. It's infuriating. I've had a few times where I had to put my face in the pillow and scream because I thought justice is going to be served. They're going down for what they did to my little cousin. But no, now I find out that they're probably back to India by now. So they said that what they do know and what they did learn was they are part of some big international trafficking ring. They won't say much more about that. That's pretty much all that they said, and that they would give more information later. Well, tomorrow, Monday, I'm going to be back on the phone with anybody and everybody. And so will another one of my cousins. So will my mom. So will my aunt. We're not backing down. We're not giving up until these men are brought to justice, or until this trafficking ring is busted wide open. They mess with the wrong family. We have connections. We know people, and we won't stop. Hey, Sarah. I pray so, Fluffy. We need your prayers. We need all of your prayers. Prayers for her healing, prayers for her mental state, prayers that she didn't catch any kind of diseases, that there's no pregnancy, that hopefully nothing more happened outside of just molestation, which is bad enough. Makes me wish I could just get my hands on them. And then prayers that these guys are brought to justice, that they find them. And not only them, but who they're working for too. And the whole thing comes crumbling down. And then not another girl or another child falls victim to these sickos, these evil creeps. I believe that their plan was they were going to take her and put her on a ship and take her out of the country, most likely to India, since she heard them keep saying India repeatedly. And then at that point, I believe they were going to sell her. And the reason why is because just about every organization that I have spoke to the last couple of days has told me that this part of Africa that they're in is just a horrible spot for trafficking. And I did Google searches on it, and I find not long ago 90 victims of human trafficking rescued at refugee camp in Malawi. 5 arrests made. 28 on November 1st of this year, just a few days ago. 28 bodies found in shallow graves just a few miles from where they live. There's 5 causes of human trafficking in Malawi. The wish to escape poverty fuels human trafficking in Malawi. Here are 5 reasons why Malawi is a source of trafficking. Girls going up to $300,000, even more for virgins, even more for white girls. When they say it's a $1 billion industry, I mean, good grief. That's how much they make from just one girl. One of the organizations that was helping me has clearance and immediately started searching the web to try to find, places where she could be put up for sale. It never came to that. Thank you, Lord. It never came to that. They were just transporting her around before she escaped. But I really do believe, like Daisy Joe said, I really do believe that God stopped and prevented this from going any further than it did. And now she has a testimony, a great, well, it's not a great story, but a story and a testimony to tell, coming from a missionary family, of what happened to her and what she went through. And she can go there's several centers all around of children who's been rescued and rehabilitated after trafficking. She could go to those centers and she could tell her story and she could uplift and she could talk to those girls and understand what they went through and how they felt. I mean, I feel like with the Lord, you can get a victory over any horrible situation that's happened to you in your life. You can turn everything into something great with God's help. And when she's ready, I mean, she's a spunky little thing. She's a tough little girl, and she's smart. Straight A student. So yeah, I believe that after I give her some time, and with the family by her side, and the church by her side, and all the support that she has, she will turn this into something that'll help others. And she will not let it make her a victim or define who she is as a person. And yeah, she did everything right. She sure did. And it's going to be one heck of a survivor, guys. And a force to be reckoned with, I believe. And the whole family is. Because we aren't going to give up. I'm one of God's miracles. He had my back and didn't let me die. He has her back too. Amen, Judo. Amen. All right, guys. Does anybody have any questions? anything they didn't hear or they didn't understand that they want me to explain or go over again? Also, if you guys have any connections, any good resources, someone I can, get on board, reach out to, um, Alicia Turner 81 at gmail.com is my email. Send me the information over, because we don't want just one or two orgs, you know, working on it. We want as many as possible. I have no idea, Emmy. I don't know what they drugged her with. Whatever it was, it didn't last very long. It wore off. Yes, just keep praying, praying. Don't give up on prayer. But yeah, I mean, I've been, of course, doing, like I said, Google searching after I reached out to the orgs that I'm associated with, affiliated with, and the people that I know, um, which are already helping and doing their part. But I kept reaching out, because I want as many people as possible, coming together and doing this. I do know people from Toga, Africa area I can talk to if you need. Huge African population here in next town. Yeah, if there's something that they can do to help find these guys, bring these guys in, anyone. It doesn't have to even, you know, be one of these big organizations. I mean, I don't care how we get them as long as we get them. I know the United Nations have already been, people from the United Nations have already been in talks with them. And then, of course, we have the U.S. Embassy in talks, which I just spoke to one of the guys earlier, personally, like he wasn't at office, called me from his home personally, that are doing what they can. Hopefully cameras can be viewed. I don't know, Fluffy, that they, I didn't even ask about that, but I don't think, let me put that back on here again. I don't think that they have cameras set up. That's something I'm going to have to ask them about. I know they have the security guy that lives right there with them, in that little white building that you see outside of the wall on the left hand side. But he should be fired, in my opinion, because he didn't see, hear, or stop nothing. You know what, Daisy Joe? It's a hard thing, because my entire family is Christian. So they all believe when he says, that he was called by God to go here, and that the doors just opened right up for him, which was more proof that that's where the Lord wanted him. That's God's will for his life, is to be there for those people. And nobody wants to argue that with him. But after this happened, we all want them home. We want them here safe and out of that hostile territory where 70% of the population has AIDS, and a hate for white men, a hate for Christianity, and human trafficking is so prevalent there. we want him away from that. We want him home. But then he'll come back and say, well, it doesn't matter where I'm at. If I'm outside of God's will and what he wants me to do with my life and how he wants to serve him, then I'm, in more danger than I am here. So it's kind of hard to argue with him about it. So we all, the family, have just decided to just keep praying that God will lay on his heart for them to come back home. But, if he's right and he thinks that that's where the Lord wants him to be, and he's right in that, then there's nothing that we can do about it. But I'd much rather them be here and away from there. I think it's insane with all the children that they have to be there. There's 5 kids. I would have no idea either, Judah. Tap out. I'd probably have to put it on my phone on the map and see how far they are from each other. Oh, cameras at the jail. Yeah, Fluffy. Well, like I said, I don't think they ever had them in the first place. I think they lied. Daisy, yeah, they said that they were cased for about a week. So what scares me is that they know how many children are in the house. They know that it's 2 parents and 5 kids and 1 security guy who obviously stinks at his job. And I'm afraid, like my biggest fear, and so is my cousin's too, which is the sister of the dad here. We're afraid that they're going to be angry she got away. Angry that, they lost all that potential money. And since it was so easy to snatch her and get away the first time, we're afraid they're going to come back and with weapons. That's why we want them to just come home right away and get out of there, because we're just so afraid that that they're going to come back. Pastor Vody, let me write that down. Vody. I will definitely check him out, Judo Tap Out. All right, guys. Well, like I said, I'm exhausted. Haven't slept good in days. Probably won't sleep good tonight either, but I'm going to try. Remember, it's aliciaturner81@gmail.com for anyone who has resources that I might have not hit up already. The more people that we have looking for these guys and searching the web for these guys and getting information on who they could be and what ring that they were in, and the more people with authority and influence that can press those police over there that did such a crappy job and acted like they could care less. I'm so glad some of my family left Cameroon. My sister-in-law is currently protecting and hosting a refugee that escaped Africa. It took him months to get out. A great man of God. He knows governmental peace over in Africa. Okay, awesome, Judo. How about thank you? Let me know if there's anything I can do, Alicia. Okay, Chaotic. I may need some help calling some of these people and emailing some of these people and keeping up with it. So I might hit you up for that. try and remember one set of footprints. Amen. All right. Thank you guys all for listening. And I appreciate in advance any help that anybody is able to give me with this and my family. Please continue to pray for her and these guys get brought to justice and this whole ring gets taken down. If we need to do a fundraiser or anything, I probably won't do a fundraiser type thing for them. The most that I would do is post the information to the church that they're from, that supports their mission, and then everybody could donate to that if they wanted to. But I have to get permission from him first to even do that, because he might not. He's very prideful. Like I said, 8-year military man, strong, fundamental, independent Baptist missionary evangelist, but yet full of pride. So he's one of those I can do it on my own type guys, except for the church, that sponsors and supports them. But if he wants to do something like that, and like maybe, Lord willing, they decide that they want to leave and come home, I'm sure that's pretty expensive, 7 people flying from Africa to here. I would then get his information for his ministry and post it so that way people could donate directly to him and through the church that supports them. All right, guys, I love you all. I'll see you around on the YouTube streets. Thank you for coming in, and I will talk to you later. Good night.